I came home from the hospital on a Thursday morning to find my bedroom had been turned into a home office. My bed was gone. My dresser was gone. My mother's mirror that had hung above it for 31 years was gone. In their place stood a desk, a chair, a printer, and 12 cardboard boxes stacked against the wall with the organized efficiency of someone who had been planning this for considerably longer than the 4 days I had been in the hospital. My daughter-in-law was standing in the doorway. She said, quote, 0, not. Are you all right? Not. How are you feeling? Not. I can explain. You're back early. Like the problem was my timing? I looked at the room that had been mine for 31 years. I looked at her. I said, yes, I am. I set my bag down on the floor of my own hallway, and I smiled, because she had made one mistake that she did not yet know about. She had done all of this while my attorney had power of attorney over this property, and Patricia had been waiting for my call since Tuesday. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I am 62 years old. I live in Connecticut in a house I have owned for 31 years. I raised my son Lucas in this house. I planted the garden. I chose every piece of furniture in every room with the particular deliberateness of a woman who understands that a home is not a backdrop, but a decision made daily. My son Lucas married Nicole 3 years ago. I have spoken about Nicole before. She is organized and efficient, and she sees obstacles and removes them. She had already attempted, 7 months ago, to remove me from this house by announcing at a dinner table that I had agreed to move out. I had addressed that situation with 3 documents and a trust arrangement that predated her involvement in this family by several years. She had not forgotten. Neither had I. What happened 3 weeks ago began with something entirely outside anyone's control. I have a heart condition, not serious in the sense of being immediately life-threatening, managed, monitored, the kind of condition that a woman my age addresses with medication and regular appointments, and the practical acceptance that certain things require attention. My cardiologist's name is Dr. Reeves. He is thorough and direct, and we have worked together for 4 years with a productive professional relationship built on mutual respect and his understanding that I prefer accurate information to comfortable reassurance. On a Monday morning, I drove myself to a routine appointment. By Monday afternoon, I was admitted to the hospital. Not dramatically, not with the urgency of a crisis, with the calm efficiency of a medical team that had identified an irregularity that required monitoring and had determined that monitoring was best done in a controlled environment for a short period. Dr. Reeves said, 4 days, possibly 5. We want to watch this carefully. Go home, pack a bag, come back by 6. I went home. I packed a bag. I called Patricia. This is the part I want to be precise about because it matters to everything that followed. I called Patricia before I called Lucas. Not from coldness, from the particular orderliness of a woman who has learned that the practical things need to be in place before the emotional ones can be properly attended to. Patricia and I had a standing arrangement, a durable power of attorney that covered the property at Birchwood Lane in the event that I was incapacitated or unavailable for any reason. It had been established 5 years ago, after Richard died, when I understood that having no such arrangement was a vulnerability I could not afford. I called Patricia, and I told her I was being admitted. I told her the arrangement was active. I told her to keep her phone close. She said, I always do. Then I called Lucas. He came to the hospital that evening with Nicole. They stayed for 2 hours. Lucas held my hand and asked the right questions and spoke to Dr. Reeves with the attentiveness of a son who was genuinely concerned. Nicole sat in the chair by the window and said the right things and brought coffee from the machine down the hall and was, by every visible measure, a supportive and appropriate presence. I watched her, not suspiciously, with the clear attention that 4 days in a hospital bed gives a person who has learned not to ignore what they notice. What I was seeing was a project in progress, the conversion of my home into something she had decided it should become, conducted with the confidence of a woman who believed she had 4 days and no interruptions, and a resident who would return to find the decisions already made. She was standing in the doorway of what had been my bedroom when I turned around. Her face did something I recognized from 7 months ago at the dinner table. The particular recalibration of a plan encountering an obstacle it had not scheduled. She said, "Eleanor, you're back early." I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Dr. Reeves said Thursday afternoon. Lucas and I were going to—" I said, "Dr. Reeves said Thursday. He didn't specify the hour." She said, "I was going to have everything sorted before you got back." I said, "I can see that." The silence between those words was specific. It had weight. Nicole was intelligent enough to understand that what she had said, "I was going to have everything sorted before you got back," was a confession as much as an explanation. It confirmed that the sorting had not been done for my benefit. It had been done before my return because my return was when the sorting was supposed to be presented as complete. I said, "Where is my bed?" She said, "In the garage. We thought—" I said, "My mother's mirror?" She said, "It's in the guest room." "It's safe. I wrapped it myself." I said, "Nicole, why is there office furniture in my bedroom?" She looked at me with the expression of someone who is prepared for a confrontation, but prepared for a version of it that was less calm than the one they were receiving. She said, "Lucas and I have been talking about the possibility of him working from home some days. He needs a proper space. We thought, since you have the guest room and the house is large—" I said, "You thought you would create the space while I was in the hospital." She said, "We were going to talk to you about it." I said, "Before or after the furniture arrived?" She said nothing. I looked at the desk where my bed had been, at the printer, at the 12 boxes stacked against the wall. I said, "When is Lucas coming?" She said, "I'll call him. I'll tell him to come now. We can all talk about this together." I said, "Yes, please do that." She called him from the kitchen. I heard the conversation in pieces, her voice lower than usual, the particular register of someone delivering news that requires careful framing. She said I was home. She said earlier than expected. She said I seemed fine, but that I had seen the room. Lucas arrived 40 minutes later. He came in through the front door and stopped in the hallway when he saw my face. He said, "Mom." I said, "Come and see the bedroom." He followed me down the hall. He stood in the doorway and looked at the desk and the printer and the boxes stacked against the wall. He looked for a long moment without speaking. He said, "This wasn't supposed to happen this way." I said, "How was it supposed to happen?" He said, "We were going to present it as an option. When you came home, we thought if it was already set up, you could see how it would work and—" I said, "Lucas, your mother's furniture is in the garage." He closed his eyes. I said, "Your grandmother's mirror is in the guest room wrapped in moving blankets." He said, "I know." I said, "You knew about this before it happened?" He said, "Nicole thought it would be easier to show you than to ask." I said, "Easier for whom?" He did not answer. That was when I took out my phone and I called Patricia. Not angrily. A line item list of items that had been removed from their established locations. My bed, my dresser, my mother's mirror, the items from my bedroom that were now in boxes in the guest room, with estimated replacement values beside each one. The third page was a single paragraph. It stated that the property owner reserved the right to pursue restitution for any damage to, loss of, or unauthorized modification of property contents conducted during the period of incapacitation, and that the attorney of record had been formally notified of the events of this date and was prepared to proceed accordingly. Nicole set the document down. She said, "This is excessive." I said, "Is it?" She said, "We didn't damage anything. We were careful. Everything is here." I said, "My bed is in the garage." She said, "We can put it back." I said, "Yes, you can." Lucas said, "Mom, we didn't mean for this to—" I said, "Lucas, I need you to hear something clearly. I was in the hospital for 4 days. I was there because my heart required monitoring. While I was there, Someone entered my home and removed the furniture from my bedroom and replaced it with office equipment and packed my personal belongings into boxes labeled for transfer. That is what happened. The intention behind it does not change what it was. He was quiet. I said, "Your grandmother's mirror has been in this house for 31 years. It hung above my dresser the day I moved in. It has not moved since." Then I went inside and I walked down the hall to my bedroom. My bed, my dresser, my mother's mirror above it, catching the light from the hallway exactly as it always had. I sat on the edge of my bed. I had come home from the hospital that morning to find my room dismantled and a stranger's furniture in its place, and a woman standing in the doorway telling me I was back early. By evening, my room was my room again. The document in Patricia's file remained where it was, ready, if it was ever needed again. It is Friday morning. I slept in my own bed last night for the first time in 5 days. The monitor beside me is gone. The hospital quiet is gone. What remains is the ordinary quiet of a house that has been mine for 31 years, and that knows, in the way that houses know things when they have been lived in long enough, that the person in it belongs there. My mother's mirror catches the morning light above the dresser. Nicole sent a text at 7 this morning. She said, "I hope you slept well. Let me know if you need anything this week." I read it twice. Then I wrote back, "I slept very well, thank you." That was all. It was enough. There is a document in Patricia's file with today's date on it. It describes what happened in this house while I was in the hospital. It describes the power of attorney. It describes the restoration. It is complete and accurate, and it will remain in that file for as long as I decide it should remain there. Nicole knows it is there